Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Happy Hour. Today, we are going to be kind of going into that Christians at Work series that we have. We had a defense attorney at one point, but today we have someone a little different. We have our good friend here, Solomon Ayres. You might see him behind the drums every once in a while if you come to the live services here at St. Mark and De Pere. But Solomon, you are a police officer, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit because certain positions, I think, in the line of, I guess, work, or I guess secular work, uh, some people might struggle with the idea of being a Christian and being in that line of work. So I'm trying to find someone that like works for the IRS. I think that would be interesting, like the modern day tax collector. How does a Christian deal with that? Do they get like hate mail daily and stuff like that?
I just hate that Zacchaeus story.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so I thought asking a police officer to sit down and kind of talk about their line of work would be a really interesting conversation. So I'm glad that you came in here, and thanks for being here. But
Sure.
Introduce, I guess, the world to Solomon. Who is Solomon?
Oh man, that's a large question. I feel like I've been so many things. I grew up in a family of musicians that traveled around the country. So music has been my general most of my life that I remember. Um, we moved to Green Bay, and this kind of became our base of operations. We would travel from here and go to our gigs, and then come back here instead of staying on the road, which we did for 3 years straight. Like we never went back to our original home. After that, I basically grew up here. I've been here, like I said, since 1987. So, man, it's been quite a long time coming up here.
And I think what was cool is that the first day you and I met was the same day that we both became partners here at St. Mark.
Oh,
if I remember correctly. Yeah. So I think we were both in starting point at the same time. And was your wife pregnant at the time too? I can't remember, but I
believe so. I think she was pregnant with our first Naomi. So yeah, she's 4 now, and she is a handful. And she has a lot of attitude.
She's not going to be watching this, is she? I can hear you say that.
Yeah. She knows it.
Okay. Yeah, she embraces the role, really. Yeah. So, and I do love that you play drums. How long have you been playing drums, by the way, too?
I kind of started dabbling when I was about 5 years old. Like I said, we traveled around the country, but I was way too young. My brothers and my sister, my sister's the next youngest to me. She's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So I basically grew up behind the drum set, doing small things for the stage, for the show, helping out, carrying gear, set gear up, tear gear down, that kind of thing. So I watched my brother play for so many years. I kind of just absorbed it.
Okay.
So about the age of 5 was when I started picking up sticks and kind of emulating my brother. I didn't really get serious about it until I was probably about in 8th grade or so, and all the way through high school and all the way through college. And here we are. I mean, I've been playing for quite a number of years. It's been about 40 years or so. But like I said, I mean, it's a humbling experience when you can pick up your phone and get on the internet and watch a 7-year-old crush your skill level. So, I mean, I haven't quite focused to a fine needle point like some of these people in the world do, because I've had other things to focus on, but I've had fun with it.
Yeah, no, it is always a blast. I think when you're behind the drum set there, man.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, but you're a police officer as well. So, I guess what police department do you serve? Do you work at? Terminology.
I work with the city of Green Bay.
You do? Okay. Okay. So, I guess, are there parts of the city then that you work, more often in, or do you, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis as a police officer?
My specific area is like the east side of Green Bay. So, mostly the far east side of Green Bay. We've got a whole mixture of, socioeconomic differences, different race, religions, creeds, all that stuff, all mixed in, kind of just conglomerated into one. We've got really nice areas and some really poor areas. I would say that, our closer into the city, like city center areas, it kind of gets, there are some areas in there that are really low income. Then there's some areas in there that are, nice and, blue collar families and stuff like that. So I mean, it's Green Bay is a hodgepodge. I don't know how
It
to
really
describe
is.
it. It's yeah. There's not.
Yeah.
It's not like going to a city where there's like there's this poor section here
Right.
and like then you cross the tracks and now you're in the you know what I mean. Like you find areas that are really good and there's like pocket subsections within those areas that just where people don't do quite as well as some of the other people that surround them or what have you. But there's no clear cut lines like you would see, or the old stories of coming from the wrong side of the tracks.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a
It's
Green
like
Bay.
the south side of every city.
Yeah,
Is always the
yeah.
worst side. I don't know why that is.
Right.
I'm trying to think of the south side of Green Bay though is closer to De Pere, and I wouldn't really call that
the south side of Green Bay would be in the river.
I suppose, yeah, right. Which I mean, to be fair, is probably not the best place.
Well, right? No, probably not.
But really, so tell me a little bit about your Christian journey too. Have you always been a Christian, or?
I wouldn't say always practicing. I grew up with Christian values. I mean, we always did family prayers. I grew up, doing the Our Father prayer with our family, circled up, holding hands. Like I grew up with the one prayer that I like I said, when I said not practicing, I've never been, I wouldn't say like ridiculously knowledgeable about the Bible, right? So my parents instilled me with values and small snippets of the Bible, and I would read Bible stories and that kind of thing. But where I'm getting at with this is that we would always do a prayer that I just considered a prayer like our family prayer, and it didn't dawn on me until I was older that it was actually Psalm 23, which was my mom and dad's favorite prayer.
Sure.
And we used to just that was like what we would do. That was I just grew up with that, so my parents would always, like I said, instill the Christian values in us. We would, go to church whenever my dad would get us involved in things. When we moved here, we were very poor, so we would end up going to like the Salvation Army church, things of that nature. My dad would get me involved in the youth groups and stuff like that. So it's always been here. I was never able to like focus specifically on it to become like a more practicing Christian until I got basically until I met my wife and we actually sat down and focused more on it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's always been there, just not as much as I probably should have.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, your story, my story are not very different, honestly. I'd have the kind of the same scenario. I grew up and it was I actually I was baptized here. I was raised at St. Mark as well. I went to school up until 8th grade, but after that, I kind of fell away from the faith and met my wife, who was an atheist. And I always said that, I believed in God, but I wasn't sure if, like denominational doctrines were really the right way to go. And who can really, interpret scripture. I was kind of one of those people, like who can really interpret it the right way. And you get
so many translations.
Oh yeah. We all know the bad arguments.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I met my wife who started questioning me on Christian beliefs that got me like, I don't really know a good answer for that. Let me get back to you on it. And then I start, doing my own digging until you finally had that light bulb moment of like, this is all right. It's all true, isn't it? So, what would you, so since we both were in starting point at the exact same time, what would you say, do you have any, how has life changed for you, I guess, after being a partner at St. Mark, would you say?
Changed. Oh man. It's
a big question, right?
That is a huge question. I feel like growing up, like I've been to different churches, right? And like I said, my dad would take me to the Salvation Army church, and then a family member would get involved in a different church, and we'd end up going to that church. And like I don't even know how many different churches we've tried. And then like I said, same thing. I fell away from doing anything specific with churches and anything serious like that. And I met my wife, and when we were dating, I'm like, okay, let's do this church thing again. So then we started church shopping, and that's a That's a whole other experience. I don't even know how to describe that, and I don't want to insult anyone or anything. So let's just say it's different.
Okay.
But the one thing that my wife pointed out after we tried coming here, and let me digress for a second.
Yeah.
I came here because I was in a band called Panic Station, and the bass player for our band is Jeff Engelbrecht. He also plays bass here in the praise band. And so we had tried a lot of churches in the area, and I'd heard Jeff talk about his church a lot and the pastors here, and we had a lot of conversations that I'm like, it dawned on me. I'm like, why don't we just try there?
Yeah.
So we came here, and what I was getting to before, the thing that my wife pointed out after we came here was the fact that I actually took my jacket off. And I never noticed
Didn't even
it.
think about it.
I didn't even think about it. Not one time. I had never thought about the fact that while we were church shopping, I never once did I take my jacket off. And some of the churches, I was just kind of like, "Get me out of here!"
Right.
It was just an unsafe feeling. But here, I felt safe.
Yeah.
I felt immediately acknowledged, accepted. I mean, you walk in, the pastors know your name. It was different. So it's changed my outlook, if you will. Like I've gone to, like I said, some of the churches that I went to as a kid, I didn't really feel accepted, especially depending on the denomination of the church. Like you kind of felt like you're an outsider looking in, you know, and I've never felt that here. I felt like my kids are welcome here. My kids, I feel like my kids are safe here. And my wife has actually started looking at, other things for our children in the future with regard to this church. So,
Well, I think I, for one, can speak for the whole church that our congregation has become better because you and your family are here. You guys have been such a blessing to the church here.
Thank you very much. Really. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but you're welcome, really. So tell me a little bit, why become a police officer?
That's also a huge question.
I know. I'm good at those.
You know, that's a hard one to explain.
Sure.
The canned answer for everyone is, I want to help people. I want to, I want to do what's right. I want to, defend the right and, catch bad guys. And all that stuff is fine. And all that stuff is initially why you get into it. And then after a while, you realize you're just kind of called for it. It's not anything that you can't put one foot in and one foot out. So I feel like with me, I feel like there really wasn't much of a choice in that decision. As far as like when the opportunity arose, I took it, and it felt like the right thing to do.
Okay.
It was never anything that I grew up going, I'm going to be a cop one day.
Sure.
That was never, and in fact, when I was about to graduate from college in 2003, yes, I'm old. When you're about to graduate, you get all kinds of, you get inundated with flyers for careers and emails and stuff. And I mean, emails were pretty new for back in those days, because we had like DOS based systems until like my last couple of years, and then it became more web based. But yeah, you get inundated. And so like I remember specifically getting an email from the Appleton Police Department, and it said, join the Appleton Police Department. If you've got a college degree, we'll take you. We'll do, on the job training and send you through the academy. We'll do what we can, what we need to do to get you up to speed, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I remember sitting there looking at the computer screen and thinking, that sounds like a really cool opportunity. And the one reason I didn't do it then was I grew up in Green Bay. We moved here in 1987. I honestly had legitimately never seen a black police officer here.
Oh, okay.
And so in my mind, I stopped myself from doing it.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense,
Hmm.
but I talked myself out of doing it at that moment, and so I didn't.
Okay. Okay.
So I ended up going to work for an insurance company. In fact, the one right down the street here,
Oh, sure, sure.
and I did that for about 5 years, 5 very miserable years of going into the monotony of having a cubicle at
Yep.
an office building and just not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Um, and then the career ended up popping up again,
Okay.
and I jumped on the chance. Like
Mhm.
there was no question in my mind at that point. I'm like, I can't believe I talked myself out of it the first time.
Mhm.
I felt like I let myself down by talking myself out of it the first time for such stupid reasons
Mhm.
as that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up connecting with the
Sure.
chief at that time, and yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
I just kind of fell into it.
So, do you have there's some schooling that you have to go to then for that, or is it
Yeah.
just
So already, like I said, I already had my bachelor's degree.
okay?
So what I ended up having to do was go back to the academy, and get like that was that was another hard decision. It was like a 13 to 17 week. I can't remember specifically how long it was at that point in time because it's changed
Mhm.
since
Mhm.
then, but I believe it was like 13-week
Yeah.
academy. Um, so I threw my whole job away and went full time back to the police academy and took a complete gamble on whether or not I was going to make this career. Um, like I said, I had talked to the chief prior to making the decision, and he had kind of, encouraged me to do it, went and did a ride along. But when it came down to it, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do it, chief. I said, it's 13 weeks, and I don't know that I can take 13 weeks of not being paid. And so they're like, no, we'll sponsor you.
Oh, okay.
So as long as you pass,
You'll be good.
you will then come here and do training with us.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, I was going through as a sponsored person. However, if I did not pass, I did not have a job with the police department or the insurance company.
No pressure.
So,
No pressure.
right. And then after that, I had to go through the training on the road
Yeah.
at the police department, and that was another 17 weeks, of which if I did not pass,
Mhm.
again, I did not have a job. And then after that, I'm on probationary period for my first full year of employment there, which means that if I mess up at any point in time, they can fire me and I've got no recourse.
Mm.
So it was a serious gamble to do, to do it for
Yeah.
me.
Holy
So
smokes.
I was 31 years old
Oh, geez.
at that point in time. So
So now I'm only 32.
yeah,
So you're saying I could be a police officer?
absolutely.
All right. No, I won't be doing that. My knee is breaking as I'm thinking about it. Um, tell me a little bit about, I guess, Christians as police officers. Do you know, is it like the norm that police officers are Christians, or is it kind of a hodgepodge, or I don't know, or do you even know? I guess that's another question.
Yeah. When I was getting into the job 15 years ago, I
Mhm.
never, like, there were guys that were very, outspoken about their faith, and then
Mhm.
there are guys that you have no idea.
Mhm.
It's one of those. Policing is one of those jobs where you got the young guys who are, are most of the time real talkative, outgoing sometimes,
Mhm.
or they're willing to share things, and then you got the old guys, and it's kind of like you don't want to approach them. Even though they're very approachable, you just
Sure.
don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're those people that they're just so respected, but they're reserved, and they're stoic,
Yeah.
and they've been there and they've done that and they've seen it, and you don't know how to talk to them.
Mhm.
Um, and so you don't really approach a lot of subjects unless they approach you with them. Um, and so yeah, what I found out is like there are some of the younger guys that I knew right off the bat, like
Mhm.
I went to NEW Lutheran. I'm like, okay, well, you're
Okay.
obviously,
Yeah. Probably.
you know
Yeah.
what I
You
mean?
can guess.
And there's other guys that, like, yes, my family, my faith, my God, those are my things. And I'm like, okay, cool. But then there's some of the older guys that are super quiet,
Mhm.
and you don't, you figure things out. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's reading a book literally with Jesus on the cover. Okay, it's all right. Okay, well, clearly he's got Christian leanings, or the people of higher ranks that stuff. You'll just kind of figure things out just through observation.
Sure.
But it's again, it's like the workplace. So unless you're having like the private conversation, like what we call squad car to squad car, when you pull next to each other, unless it comes up there in some way, shape, or form, or somebody noticed something or broaches the subject, like
Sure.
generally I haven't seen it come up all that much, like as far as like in general conversation. But again, like I said, there's things that you know about people. Like one of my good friends at work, he's son of a pastor, grew up in a house of 15 children.
Wow.
Mom and dad still run the church. I mean, and it's the craziest stories come out of those guys, and it's super entertaining. So yeah, and they're hilariously knowledgeable about the Bible. I mean, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, it comes up, but not like for me. My experience has not been like we've just sat down and had like a Christian conversation, or hey man, what denomination are you, or where do you go to church? Like if let's say there's a few people that come here that I know that I work with, and we talk, and I'll be like, hey man, see you at the Easter service, cool, so like that kind of stuff. But we'd never like never had like a coffee talk. You know what I mean? Not that kind of thing.
So walk me through also, what does just a typical day in a police officer's life look like on the police force, I guess. So I guess I should maybe understand too, like, are you, I don't know what ranks there are even, are like, do you start as beat cop and then kind of work your way up, and then if that's the case, like where are you in that, I guess. And then what does a day look like in your life? Because I think you mentioned once, this is off camera, but you mentioned that you were a partner, right? You had a partner, or have a partner still, right? So what does a day look like having a partner with you and going through Green Bay and doing your usual, I guess, day-to-day business?
Yeah. So when you come in as sorry,
that's okay,
as an entry level officer, you basically your day looks like you come in, you get dressed for roll call, you sit down in the room with all everybody else from your shift supervisor, like your sergeant or your lieutenant, comes in, gives you the news for the day, anything that the higher ups need you to know, your daily memos, stuff to pay attention to, anything that we're looking for, that kind of thing, just informational stuff. And then they send you out and you go find your car. Well, I'm sorry, they give you your assignment, where you're going to be located for the day. Generally, if you're new, you're kind of like at the mercy of the shift. Sure. And what I mean by that is, like, Bob calls in sick. You're the new guy. You're going to fill in Bob's area.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The more seniority you get, the less likely that is to happen.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're probably going to have your set area, and when you're sick, people will fill in for you.
Sure.
But that, and generally you go out and, for the most part, I mean, you'll finish your reports from the previous days, or you'll just get dispatched to calls. You can do proactive things if need be. I mean, there's always something to do. Sure. So that's the general road officer, and you can do that job for 5, 10, 30 years if you want to. I mean, that's the bread and butter of the police department. Okay. That is the heart and soul, the pulse of the police department, is the officers that are on the road. Okay. What I am is called a community police officer, and so my day is kind of what I make it, right? So those people that go out and do that good work, and they take those reports and they compile all that information. I pay attention to the stuff that's in my specific areas of the city, right? And I try to find the problem sources in those areas, and I try to create like long-term solutions to those chronic issues that continue to happen in those areas. A lot of my job is trying to hold people accountable for their properties. Like, if you have landlords that that aren't keeping up their properties, really shoddy houses and stuff just falling apart, and it looks bad, and it's bringing down the value of the neighborhood, and nobody should live in it because it's just disgusting. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I run into too much of that, way too much of that, and so my partner and I will well, my partners. I'm sorry, I've technically have two partners, but
Okay.
one of our partners floats from one area to our area, so he's kind of a floater
Okay.
on this. You know,
Makes sense.
he helps out the
Yeah.
other guys too. But yeah, we try to hold these people, these landlords, accountable for their properties and make sure that, you know, the people that are living in their properties have appropriate living conditions and they're not living in squalor. And there's unfortunately too much of that. So that's, you know, what my day-to-day looks like. Now on top of that, my bosses will be like, hey, you know, there's an event going on over here, like a community event. He wants you to go over there and shake some hands and, you know, just show the friendly face of the police department, that kind of thing. So we do a lot of community outreach in that way, a lot of just general community bridge building.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
getting out there, showing our faces. We also set up like plans for businesses, like if they want to sell liquor or anything like that. We work with the city alders. You know, my specific job, like I said, my day is what I make of it, unless my boss needs me to do like a specific assignment, you know, like one of those business plans or go to an event. But if I want to focus on like a downtrodden area, I can do that. If I want to focus on a drug house, I can do that. If I want to get on a pedal bike and ride door to door in my neighborhood, handing out my business card and introducing myself to the people in my area, that is literally my job. So like yeah, it's great. But again, like I said, the pulse of the department is those officers that are on the road. So everything that I do is to try to take work off of their plate so they don't have to continue going to the same addresses over and over again.
Yeah.
So if I am on a pedal bike going door to door in my neighborhoods, it's because I'm trying to meet these people that live in these neighborhoods, talk to them, and then figure out, hey, is that house really a problem? Why is that house really a problem? Who's in that house? Who's living in that house?
Yeah.
What is the problems that come out of that house? You know, what are the times that this is happening? You know, do you feel safe in your home because of that home? Like, you know what I mean? So those are the things that we generally focus on in my specific position because of the officers that are on the road doing that good work. So
makes me wonder then. So is it like Hollywood shows it then, where you go and knock on the doors and they say, I'm not saying anything?
Oh well, yeah. In that regard, yeah, that can,
Okay.
yes. Sometimes, yes. Where I thought you were going with is, you know, explosions and car chases and
well, I mean, that was just a
gunfights.
That does happen, right?
Yeah. That stuff. My job, I tell everybody, it's like 5 seconds of action for 2 hours of paperwork. That's so. I mean, yeah. I mean, would you see these movies and they've got, you know, these cops are doing all these things. They're doing foot pursuits and car chases. I'm like, oh my gosh, all the paperwork that would come out of that's a nightmare. Like, I mean, it's insane. There are some movies that will show you like the real interactions between police officers. There's that one with Jake Gyllenhaal, and I don't know why I'm blanking out right now. It's Jake Gyllenhaal and
the new Roadhouse, right?
No, not that movie, but that actor. It's him and oh man, the actor from Ant-Man, the comedic sidekick guy, the Hispanic dude. And I'm totally blanking.
We got a producer; she can look it up, right?
Yes, the movie it's something Night.
I think the one the Nightcrawlers.
No, not that one, but he is in that one too.
Okay.
I might be thinking of that wrong, but yeah, if you come up with it, it's a great end of watch. That's it. That is an amazing movie. Now again, the action is a little overinflated in it, obviously, because of they need viewers, but. If you watch that movie for the interaction between the two officers and the officers that they work with, you're just like, this is spot on. I'm sitting there going, I feel like I'm in the movie. I mean,
I feel like I should be getting paid to watch.
Yeah,
this.
You know, I mean, it's amazing. Just I mean, the cultural interaction between the guys and the jokes that they share between themselves, because that's just like how they are, you know what I mean? They're so comfortable in their own skins and with each other that they share jokes that are totally inappropriate for other people to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for them, it's just like, man, this is how we mentally get through this and survive. Yeah. You know, and I as an officer, you watch that and you're just like, wow, these guys
cool.
are spot on.
They did that.
Yeah, it's very good.
I do need to ask you though, given the situation and the circumstances that you are in, how are you able to live out that Christian mission and Christian faith that you have?
I would have to say that the one thing that keeps most of us grounded.
Mhm.
I mean, Christian or non-Christian as an officer, one thing that keeps most of us grounded is the fact that we're going out there to do the right thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So for the Christians, it would be doing the Lord's work, making sure that people are coming home safe to their families, that their homes are safe to live in, that
Mhm.
that they're inhabitable.
Mhm.
Breaking up that domestic violence situation and keeping those people safe.
Mhm.
I mean, that is, or going into the dangerous situations. I mean, I've I've had the honor of being on the SWAT team there, and it's eye opening.
Mhm.
It really is, and just the camaraderie that you feel with the people on your team, and
Mhm.
knowing that you're going into a situation that nobody should have to go into, but you're going there to do the right thing to help those people out and make sure that everybody comes out safe. Everybody comes out safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not a we're gonna go kick the door down and take this guy out kind of thing. This is a hey, we're doing the right thing for everybody in this situation to make sure that all of them come out safe and get the help that they need so we can move forward. You know what I mean? And they can move forward, whether together, apart, hopefully apart, because it seems
Mhm.
volatile if we're there. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that keep us
Yeah.
going.
So, are you one that has to respond to calls? I should ask you that then too.
Specifically me, no,
No.
I
Okay.
am not beholden to the radio in my particular role. Um, However, if there are calls that are significant that come out and I'm
Mhm.
nearby, I'm going to that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If I'm the near guy, I can't in good conscience not go to the call.
Yeah.
If it's especially if it's a dangerous call,
Yeah.
it's just a mentality.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So speaking of dangerous calls, because I've got you here, and I know cops have the best stories. Have you had any close call scenarios where that you're willing to talk about? I should say.
oh man, there are a lot of close call scenarios. I would say that one that I'm willing to talk about though is we one time we responded to a mother who was very distraught. Her son was being okay, like overly aggressive towards mom and the family. Like they were in an argument.
Mhm.
Um, and it was an African American family, right? So
Mhm.
we get there and we're in the back door, and it's kind of like a stairwell, like a small stairwell that goes to a landing, like 3 steps high.
Oh, sure.
And then like a stairwell that went up higher.
Mhm.
This family lived in the lower here, so I could see into their house.
Mhm.
Um, and mom is screaming on the phone before we got there, right? So
Mhm.
when she opened the back door and then backed off and back into the house, like her son is standing just off of the stairs, and he's got 2 kitchen knives, very long, and they're
Mhm.
like pointed at his abdomen.
Mhm.
And I mean, we go into our normal stuff, drop the knives, drop the knives, come out, put your hands up, drop the knives.
Mhm.
And he just wasn't responding at all. And so at some point, I had to get the other officers to calm down and say, hey, guys, bring it down a second. And so I'm like, hey, man. So since I knew that my officers had my back, I just
Mhm.
I stayed back by them, but I put my sidearm away and I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, bud. And you could tell that he kind of keyed in on me because
Mhm.
I was the only one there that was African American. So a lot
Sure.
of times, like a lot of times, the African American population in situations like this will gravitate towards me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I said, hey, bud, we need you to put those knives down. What can we do to help you?
Mhm.
And he keyed in on me, and I could see that the knives kind of teeter. I said, hey, man, I just need you to put those knives down so nobody gets hurt.
Mhm.
And eventually, he did. He sets the knives down. I'm like, okay. Now I need you to come over here and sit down on the steps for me so I can talk to you.
Yeah.
And so slowly he does. He comes and he sits down on the steps, and I'm like, I have to monitor his hands,
Yep.
obviously,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
in our job we have a saying, hands kill, right?
Mhm.
So, I kind of sneak in and get up next to him, and as I'm talking to him, I kind of gently grab his hands, I put him behind his back, and he allows me to do it, and
Sure.
put him in handcuffs. And as I'm talking to him, we
Yep.
kind of gathered a little bit of rapport, calmed them down,
Mhm.
and then we were able to just walk them out to the car.
Sure.
Now, I mean, obviously that's a unique situation. It doesn't always happen that
No.
way. It doesn't always end up that way. We don't always get the cooperation that way. In this instance, it just worked. And I was very thankful for that. I mean, but
Mhm.
that's a very mild.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because I've seen some pretty scary scenarios, like especially online when they show like it's often called suicide by cop. You know that they
Yes.
they're out of their mind. They have knives in their hands and they just start charging them, and they end up getting killed because of it. And it's sad to see, but and then you have to witness, because everything's on body cam now, so you've got
Right.
these poor guys that are bawling their eyes out after, like, I didn't want to shoot the guy, I didn't want to kill the guy, but I had to, and then now they have to deal with that for the rest of their life. And
Yeah.
it's so sad. So I'm so glad a situation like that for you, what you were able to come out of it. Everyone's safe, everyone survives. Everyone,
Yeah.
went
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
smoothly. But
And unfortunately, like I said, it doesn't always work out that way. And for those people who have to live with that, that's a hard road
mhm,
to go down. I mean, it's a lot of people don't really take into account the fact of the survivor's perspective of that, and the survivor being the officer, having had their hand forced,
mhm,
is having, for something completely out of your control in a situation like that is it's devastating. It can be devastating.
mhm,
Um, okay, for example, I mean, one thing that I would relate it to would be people driving vehicles where somebody just throws themselves in front of it, right?
yeah, yeah,
You had no choice in this matter. Somebody decided to make you live with something
mhm,
that you can't take back, and it's you can either move forward, or it can devastate you to the point of not being able to function,
mhm,
and I've seen some people like walk away from their careers because they just they couldn't come to work anymore, and that's a hard pill to swallow. It's because
yeah,
when you have a job like this, it becomes your identity. It becomes you.
mhm,
And it's not for what people think it is. Like, oh, you crave authority. No, that's
no,
not what it is. It's just you love serving. You love being that person that goes out to try to help those people who are in need.
mhm,
Um, because I mean, you're the person with that, if not me, then who mentality, and that's what you want to do. It has nothing to do with the fact that, well, if you mess up, I could take your rights away. That is not
That's
what
how
I
it works.
wake up every
What?
day.
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah,
My
it's
whole world
crazy.
is
I
turned
know.
upside down.
Right? Yeah, I wake up every day. Just how can I offend the Fourth Amendment today? Let's see, what can I do? That's it's not my aim.
Well, I'm glad there's one of you on the force that
Yes,
does
yes,
that. No, I'm
absolutely,
joking.
yes. I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, but so I love that you have such a desire and such a love to serve God by serving people in your community. So have you been able to see what you've done, like you personally did for somebody, and actually see a difference made?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
it's not often. Uh, but you don't. The you talk to 10 officers, and like 9.9 out of 10 of them will tell you, I don't do this job for thank yous. You right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, we don't generally do it for accolades or recognition. We just do the job.
Mhm.
But there's been times where I specifically remember one young lady walked up to me, and I didn't even remember who she was until she told me her situation. She said, "Hey, you're an officer, right?" And I said,
Yeah.
yes. Question mark. And she's like, hey, yeah, you came to my house years ago, um it had to have been like 8 years prior. I mean, I think I was on night shift when, like just that was within my first 5 years of working.
Mhm.
And she's like, I got into a fight with my boyfriend and he was abusive to me and he beat me up and you arrested him. And you guys took him to jail. And she said, I wasn't the nicest person.
Mhm.
And she's like, but the advice that you gave me after that about getting my life back together and
Mhm.
and doing what's best for me in this situation, she said that stuck with me, and I'm so glad you did that. She thanked me, and I was like, and it's not often that you walk into somebody's house, you devastate their world, right?
Mhm.
Because it is, even though I'm there doing what's best for them by
Mhm.
removing the carnage from the situation. So the abusive spouse or significant other, even though I'm there doing that to make them safe, it wrecks their world.
Yeah, it's a real trauma,
It's yeah,
honestly.
it
Yeah,
it,
it
it
really
is.
is.
And they know that I'm making them safer by doing this, but they want it and they don't want it.
Mhm.
It's a hard pill for them to swallow. Um,
Yeah. I've been seeing videos recently too of, again, it was kind of the same situation, but people are calling police for whatever the reason was, and they call the police and it's because of a homeless guy that's, annoying them. They call the
mhm.
police and the guy comes over and he starts arresting the guy and he goes, "Well, no, I didn't want you to arrest him. I just wanted you to take him away." He's like, "Look, I'm a police officer. I'm here. I got to make an arrest. Like,
Right,
so, this person's got to be arrested because they're
right.
doing something wrong and I got to take him away."
And in
And
that
that,
instance, that person has no connection with that person,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Right. So like if it's an established relationship, especially if they got children together,
Hmm.
it makes it significantly more difficult for this person to get past the fact that they're not going to have that person there, that's going to be a lonely night for them, even though
Hmm.
they're in pain, from
Hmm.
having been physically or mentally abused. They're now have to take care of the child by
Right. Yeah.
themselves. They now have to earn
Hmm.
by themselves in certain situations if the person gets locked up for a significant amount of time. So it's a significant moment to have a person that went through that come up to you years later in retrospect with an actual mature
Hmm.
like memory of it, having learned something to thank you is
Hmm.
like it was mind blowing. I had no idea what to say to her. I just kind of froze. I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
It's so yeah. In
Mhm.
those regards, like in that regard, that is very rare. The things that I see that I make a difference in, and that people show their appreciation for, is I do a lot of trainings at um, businesses for like civilian response to like active shooter stuff,
Mhm.
helping businesses train their employees on that kind of stuff, or how to do first aid in situations like that where significant trauma has been dealt to people in those situations, should they, God forbid, end up in that terrible situation.
Yeah.
So people are very thankful for that stuff, and they'll
Mhm.
they'll shake your hand and just
Yeah, of
be
course.
so glad that you came. So that kind of stuff, it's very rewarding in that,
Yeah.
in those trainings.
Ah, That's so
Um,
that's so cool. And I think that there is, like, I don't know what the real numbers behind this are, but I think around, I think when like Black Lives Matter came out like really strong and there was a big anti-cop sentiment
mhm.
behind it for a while. I think there's this mindset that has kind of changed in a lot of people, that they really do think that like cops are out there to just go and ruin people's days
Oh yeah.
and do their, like, because they're getting paid to do it, so they have to do it and ruin their day. So it's I really like that you added in there that, like, when you have these interactions with people, you're able to sit and talk with them and say, here's what I would do, here's my advice to you. You're like, I'm not a heartless person. Even the person that you ended up having to arrest because he had knives pointing at him, you were able to actually form a connection and talk with this person.
Right.
And let's,
Right.
I'm not here to be the bad guy, right?
Right.
And
And in that case, let me clarify that
yeah,
statement,
please.
because that person, I don't believe got arrested. I think that from
Sure.
my recollection. This is a while
Oh,
ago,
sure.
but
Sure.
in those instances, that's kind of like a mental health crisis. So we
Okay.
just get
Okay.
we get that person help. So
Gotcha.
they may end up on like a 72-hour hold
Sure. Sure.
or things of that nature, unless they've actually committed a crime. Then we would arrest them subsequent to the mental health
Mhm.
hold, that kind of thing. So I don't believe we arrested that guy. But
Okay.
yeah,
Sure. Sure. No,
we did take him
I'm glad you
into
made that.
custody.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you made the distinction there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know all this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, a lot of
I
people really
I
don't.
just learned that detaining is something different, and this was like weeks ago that I learned that detaining and arresting are two different things. So
Yeah.
but apparently from some of the videos that I've seen, it freaks people out because they're in cuffs and they get put in the back of a squad car and they're thinking I'm being arrested. Like, I'm not arresting you, I'm just detaining you. I just need you to be away from the situation so I can handle this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. Detaining is simply just stopping you for a bit. You know what I mean? Like essentially like a traffic stop is you being detained. I mean, detained means simply that you're not free to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You're not under arrest yet, or you might not be under arrest at all after I talk to you. It's just that you're not free to go at this moment.
Yeah.
I need to investigate something.
Fair enough. I don't think it's asking too much, really. So with the anti-cop sentiment that was going out with like Black Lives Matter and kind of how that cultural attitude shifted towards police officers, how do you combat that in like a Jesus-loving way?
I wouldn't say that I actually combat it.
Maybe not. Maybe I should say maybe not like you particularly. How are you combating it? But how would you like recommend that to the general public? Would you want to change that public perception?
I think that, how do I explain? So in my experience, if you purposely set out to change something, it's almost like you're trying to do it by force, right? Which is what these things, the things like Black Lives Matter represent to me. You're bringing awareness by force.
Okay.
Right. And what that does is it creates the opposition. So a lot of stuff with their messages is all centered around racism. Like a lot of the groups that are coming out of this are, racism. And now, yes, there's racism out there. There are a lot of racist people out there. But not all the people out there are racist, right? And so when that becomes your whole message, you are creating that opposition, right? My personal way of handling things is, like I said, we moved to Green Bay in 1987.
Sure.
At this time, the only Black people in Green Bay in 1987 were essentially like us and the Packers. I kid you not. I got asked on a regular basis, "Are you a Packers kid? Are you a Packers kid?" I'm like,
no, I wish something.
I'm not a Pack. Yeah, I wish. I might know where my next meal's coming from. You know what I mean? We were so poor. But there were a lot of things to overcome there. There are a lot of people's perceptions and preconceived notions and stereotypes and things of that nature to overcome, because people have never, like in this area, had never really experienced dealing with people of color at that point in time, right? So I specifically remember, there are friends that I have in college who I had known for a long time before we got to college, and I started hanging out with them in college, and I meet their parents and stuff, and they would tell me like, "Man, like my parents were kind of racist until they met you." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, probably because they never met another Black person before." So people don't realize that the sum of a human being is like basically their experiences, right? So you are the sum of your experiences. Like, and if your experience is that all you've ever dealt with is people that look like you, but the people that don't look like you see them on the news, you see them in movies, you see them on TV, you read about them in books, and they're always doing bad stuff. Then that becomes your perception of people that look like that, right? Or people that do those things, right? And so my personal philosophy has just been, I'm not going to change your opinion by force. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to combat your philosophy. I'm just going to be what I am and what I'm here meant to be, right? And you're going to form your opinion of me off of that. And if that opinion of me should happen to change your outlook, then mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't tell you what's right. The more I tell you what's right, the more you're going to fight against what I think is right. You know, because you know what's right in your head. And so I feel like what I have been called here to do is just be the example of what a person doing the right thing should be, regardless of what I look like, regardless of the similarities we may share, if that's color, if that's job, if that's religion. None of that for me matters on that level. If you've got something that you want to press on the public about an opinion of anything that I do, I'm still going to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, when I talk to people that are affiliated with the groups like that, I'm not black when I'm wearing that uniform.
Oh, okay.
I'm just a cop.
Interesting.
And I've been called racist more times than I can count. Because I'm not looking at your color to make the decision for what happened. Your actions have already made the decision for me, right? So my decision is not on the basis of anything outward. It's what happened before I got here, what the evidence points to, and what I find on you.
Yeah.
What comes out of your mouth, right? And that's going to make my decision whether or not you're going to be detained, arrested, go to jail, or be sent on your way, you know, and how you interact with me. That's all. You know, respect goes a long way. You know, so that's what that's how I feel my mission has led, my mission has led me to do. You know what I mean? I don't know how
No, I think you're doing a really good job, because I'm from what I'm understanding, it sounds like, yes, there is, like you've already said, that like the color of your skin does play a part into certain interactions, depending on, especially if you're meeting other Black people and they're in these kind of tough scenarios, they're going to tend to kind of gradually move towards you. They feel more comfortable with you in that regard. And that's a good thing. But in your own mind, you've been called to this vocation by the Lord. He brought you into this position clearly because you're here, and you get to use that. You get to use that mission, complete that mission, and be there, and you get to see people and then say, I can see that we're different. I can see you got a different color skin. We have a different socioeconomic class or something like that. But above all of that, I see you first as a child of God who deserves all the same rights, and you deserve all the same love that I get from the Lord. And I'm going to show that to you the best way I can, while still completing my job. And it's such a noble thing for you to do. And honestly, our streets are safer because of it. I love that. Lauren, how much time we got? I didn't start my timer. My apologies.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. See, perfect timing. So I wanted to close out here a little bit on this. So first of all, with the community that you serve right now, so that kind of that one specific area that I won't really go into too much detail on, but if people like were watching this and they were like, I love Solomon, I want to help Solomon, and I want to help the community that he's serving, how would people that are watching this do that?
How would they help the community that I'm serving? That's a good question. I really, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I would say, there's always the old standbys of, support your local businesses.
Sure.
Okay. Frequent your local businesses. Get out and talk to your neighbors.
No, that is true. Seriously, that is wild.
And nobody does that anymore. There's so much social media and infrequent face-to-face interaction that people don't even know how to talk. I'm sorry, I got a sidebar.
Please do. I love it.
I'm listening to the radio, like that every once in a while. I'll listen to Freebird Hot Wings, in the morning, and they're talking about the age group of 18 to 27 and what they think an appropriate first date is. and like 80 to 90% said Zoom. And I'm like, are you
What?
kidding me? Like,
That's it?
what has happened to this world? You're not willing to go and actually meet face to face and figure out, hey, I'm a human being. You're a human being. Let's make community. No, I'm gonna talk to you through a screen because I have no idea how to interact with you or read societal, like, social cues. Like, it has gotten ridiculous, and
Okay.
people are doing this.
Since we're already off on this tangent, I gotta ask, what was your first date with your wife like then? What was it? Where was it? That's all
I have to be honest with you. I met my wife on Tinder.
Oh, that's
That is so funny. It is so funny. But I met my wife on Tinder.
Sure.
Our first date was at a place called the Blue Opus. It was a New Orleans style jazz club over on Bellevue on the east side.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I would stop in there and play music every once in a while because they were very musician centric there. It was a really cool place run by a local musician. And it has since gone out of business. COVID kind of killed it, which was pretty sad because that place was a pretty good jam spot. But yeah, our first date was face to face, like two adults, sitting down, talking, having a drink and a meal, and just getting to know each other.
Yeah, I think my wife's first date with me was. I have a picture. I should maybe in post I'll show the picture. But you can see the disdain that she has for me. We went to the new zoo. She does not do well in heat. Like, she doesn't, like, her body doesn't sweat at all, so she can overheat very quickly.
Ooh.
And it was a very hot day, and we were at the new zoo. So I remember taking a picture of her, and there's like this look on her face as she's walking towards me that pure hatred. It's pretty good though. So maybe in post I'll put that picture up so everybody watching can see that. But I'll ask my wife first. All right. So, but anyway, just to close us out, Solomon, if there was a magic wand that you could just use, you get your one wish to fix one major thing in Green Bay. What would that be?
Fix one major thing in Green Bay. Oh man.
Yeah, as I was just saying,
besides the roads.
Yeah, besides the roads. We don't have any politicians watching, do we?
Oh man, I hope not. Oh man, I would say I would fix the we've got a rather large perception of inequality. And don't get me wrong, there are inequalities. I mean, there's inequalities and inequities all over the world. And that's just life, right? But there's so much opportunity, and there's so much help out there for people that need it, that I really wish that more people would take advantage of it. Unfortunately, some of those people that don't take advantage of it comes down to mental illness, which is understandable, and they just can't grasp it, and it is what it is. I don't know how to fix that. But there are socioeconomic programs out there and grants and just educational opportunities. And I've actually literally had people say, I'm on unemployment because I never learned how to read. And it's like, well, there are programs that will teach you how to read. Just do that, please just go learn how to read. Don't limit your life to the possibilities that are out there. You know what I mean? So I think that would be that perception of the inequality and just for people to take advantage of the goodness that is that the city offers. It would be phenomenal.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I would love to see that too, honestly. So you heard it here first, everybody. So Solomon, again, thank you so much for sitting down talking with me about your line of work. I love cop stories, so I can't wait to get more of those, maybe off camera so we can get the really good ones. But Solomon, thanks again. Everybody here watching, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we love having you guys here with us. We're trying to find a way so we can have an in-studio audience at some point during these pre-recorded shows, so we can open up the floor to questions, but no one's here, so that's all right. Again, just enjoy it. If you could just do us a huge favor, like, share, comment, and leave us a review on the page. Especially tell us how great you love that host Taylor. He's a great guy. toss a few good words towards me, I will cherish them forever. Otherwise, until next time, guys, keep thinking deeply.